All right, now that we've learned the basic features of building an arithmetic question, we're going to look at one more case where we're doing a slightly more advanced question, just so that you can see the vision of this is beyond just asking for basic addition within the tool. So remember, we'll always start by going to Classroom Assessments, opening our question library, and then finding the appropriate folder that we want to add our questions to. If we don't have a folder created just yet, we can create a new section and then actually create that folder name, save the section, and then go ahead and click to open. So now we're set up to where we're in the building stage. And then when we go to new, we'll still select arithmetic question. For this example though, we're going to do a slightly higher level. So suppose you were looking at an algebra type question. Often students have seen questions like this. If Johnny has saved $30 in the bank and plans to deposit $10 each week, how much money will Johnny have saved on week 8? Now in this problem, we actually have 3 different conditions that we're looking at. We're looking at what he initially started with, we're looking at how much he's depositing each week, and we're looking at the specific week that we want. So you'll notice that that means in this case, we have 3 variables we'd want. And since we were looking at money, we're actually looking at a case where we have 2 decimal places. So I'm going to change and replace each of these number values with a variable, keeping in mind that we keep them within the braces. But now I'm going to have 3 different variables, which means when I scroll to the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and add one more variable so that I'm dealing with 3 conditions, a value for my x, for my y, and for my z. Now in my problem, remember, the x represented that y-intercept, that starting point, so what he initially had saved. So you might decide, okay, well, he could potentially have nothing in the bank, and he could be up to $60 in the bank where he initially started. Since this particular example was dealing with money, you might want to have it go to 2 decimal places. And then we have the choice. We could choose to have it going as whole numbers. You could choose to have it going by $5 each time. So the step, remember, just is deciding what our conditions would be. So if I had a step of 5, then this is saying that the potential starting could be 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, and so forth. The y's in this problem was what was happening for each week, so what they were depositing per week. So in that case, maybe you could say, all right, well, he potentially could be adding $5 up to $25 per week for this particular example. Again, since it's money, we might desire to have it where we are having 2 decimal places. But maybe in this case, you want it to go by $2.50. So it could be $5, could be $7.50, could be $10, could be $12.50, and so forth. So we're conditionally building our example. And then when we look back at our problem, remember we were looking at what week we were actually trying to decide how much money he had. So maybe for that one, you want to say, okay, well, it could be up from 2 weeks up to 12 weeks. And in this case, then we don't really need a decimal place per se, because we just want it to be a whole number value. The second week, the third, fourth, fifth, and so forth. After we've built our conditions, we then have to go to the formula and build it based on what happens. Well, if you think about it, in this problem, we're saying he starts with a certain amount. So that's our x. So we would go ahead and put x in braces. Then we are going to be depositing, so we're going to be adding an amount. And in this case, he's depositing y dollars each week. And they want to know what it's going to be on week Z. So normally if we thought about this is kind of like where we're going through and we're saying, well, it's for each week, so we're multiplying. So really we want that Y value to be multiplied by the Z value. So in our formula, we're telling it we're going to add to the X whatever we get when Y is multiplied by Z. For our precision, since we were talking in money, in terms of money, and we have that $2.50 as an option, I'm going to tell it that I want it to 2 decimal places when students enter. But I'm going to go ahead and allow it to have a tolerance of 5 thousandths, just in case the student accidentally types it in just a little bit incorrectly. And then I'm going to test to make sure that my problem works. I recognize it's going to start with the value for X. It's going to take the Y and the Z, multiply it, and add it together. Since I'm happy with my final answer, I'm going to tell it that I'm done, and then I'm going to proceed to save. Now, keep in mind, for this tolerance, you don't have to have it as anything. You could just leave it as 0, and